Folks, today I'm going to tell a bootleg story. As you know, I've done a lot of research with the old bootleggers, and particularly in the North Carolina mountains. And to tell you how big bootlegging was in the North Carolina mountains, the largest seizure of non-tax-paid alcohol was made in the early 50s in Wilkes County, North Carolina. Not far up the road from where I'm sitting. Matter of fact, I can be at this house in an hour. It was made at Junior Johnson's house, and the feds seized 17,000 gallons of corn whiskey in mason jars. That's the Al Capone, nowhere in Cicero, Illinois, or all those other bootlegging places during the Prohibition ever came close to that one. That's still the record. Moving on up to Wilkes County, the one thing I used to enjoy going to were Highway Patrol retirement parties. Highway Patrol, North Carolina Highway Patrol, meant so much to my days at Charlotte Motor Speedway. They did a wonderful job of getting the traffic in and out. It was great. So I used to return the favor. When one of my old pals retired, I'd always go to his retirement party. Well, in this case, it was First Sergeant Clyde Shake of Wilkes County, North Carolina. Now, Clyde probably could have ended up being a colonel or something up in the Highway Patrol and the offices in Raleigh, North Carolina. But Clyde didn't want to leave Wilkes County up there in the mountains. So he stayed there. And he had quite a career. And of course, he would come down every May and October and work the traffic at the Speedway and did a great job. So when he retired, I went to his party. And I went up there with then Colonel Bill Funderroot. Went up his patrol car, and we got up to Elkin, North Carolina, which is right on the edges of Wilkes County. And retirement patrol parties are pretty interesting deals because it's full of retired highway patrolmen, guys you've known forever that are retired, and then current ones. You see the guys in their uniforms who go in there to play homage to whoever's retiring. Probably you could go 300 miles an hour within 50 miles of a highway patrolman party and not get caught because they're all in there at the party. There is no alcohol served, so the early part of it gets a bit dull. And then there's relatives there, and occasionally an odd group of people. In this case, in Wilkes County, it was an odd group of people because in addition to the retirees and the current patrolmen, here comes the old men, about 10 of them. The old bootleggers is who they were. And they came in and they all had the same thing on. They had starched bluebell overalls. They had flannel check shirts on. And then they had a clip-on tie that was also checked that did not match the shirt. And then they all wore Harris tweed sport coats like men in Ireland wear. Well, they come waddling in, and they're all in their 80s. They sit down, and they don't say much to anybody, but a lot of troopers know them. Wilkes County is a mountain county. Everybody knows each other, so they said hello and all that stuff. Anyway, we have the party, and after the party, the meal is over. It's completely nonconformist. The retiree is standing up there by the mic, and he mumbles a few words, and then you get up there. I always got up there and said, I appreciate you doing the job at the Speedway, yakety yak. Here's a jacket. I give him a real nice jacket with a name on it. And somebody else would give him a basket of peaches, and then the next person would come up and give them something else. The next person would come up and say, I'll fix your car for the next 12 months, Clyde. Things like that, old country stuff, like people do. Well, as the program went along, again, no rhyme or reason, here comes one of the old bootleggers. Kind of a wide man, squatty, red face, nose pushed in, hat on. He's carrying a crinkly old brown bag. Now, this is a brown bag that you couldn't crinkle up enough for a movie set. You couldn't do it in less than 10 years. You know those crinkly bags? People used to save bags, brown bags, here he comes up there with that crinkly bag. And Clyde's looking at him like, oh my Lord. So he gets up there and he says, Clyde, you remember here about 20 years ago, you had that roadblock set up on 421 coming down the mountain from Boone. And that there car done run right through that roadblock, knocked it down. And you threw a flashlight at it. The man reached into the brown bag. He pulled a flashlight out and he said, here you go, Clyde, I want you to have the flashlight back. It was a Highway Patrol issue flashlight. The house went down. Everybody just laughed. The Colonel of the Highway Patrol was there. He was a 25-year veteran. He knew an old Highway Patrol issue flashlight when he saw one, and he saw that one. He said, that's the real thing. So that's what those were like. And the old bootleggers just don't make them anymore. And, you know, for years we tried to say bootlegging had nothing to do with NASCAR. All of us that have been in it our whole lives, we knew that was wrong. We knew that those early days when it started with the flathead Fords and the 37 to 40 Fords cars, those bootleggers were the ones that made those cars run so fast up in the mountains. So we were racing them down in the flatlands. Who were we going to go to find out how to make them run? Those old bootleg mechanics. And who did a lot of people go to get their drivers from? Those young kids. All those kids all the people that drove those bootleg cars were young. Because the first time you got caught, you got sentenced 3 to 4 years in federal penitentiary, and then the judge looked down at you and said, son, you got 3 to 4 years in Chillicothe, Ohio. He wrinkled his whole face up like that. The kid was scared to death because he's only 16. He'd go to jail then, he said, suspended until you get caught the second time, and on the second offense, we'll just activate this first one. Now behave yourself, boy, and I don't want to see you here again. And that's how it happened. So those kids learned how to drive pretty darn good, and a lot of them showed up, guess where, on NASCAR racetracks, including Junior Johnson, who was the greatest bootleg driver of all time. He drove bootleg cars for a long time. He never got caught in a car. He got caught at the still and took the rap for his mother and served 1 year in federal penitentiary in Chillicothe, Ohio, which was later pardoned by Ronald Reagan. And Junior's turned out to be a great citizen. Besides, back in those days, anything wrong with bootlegging, folks, that's how you got corn off the mountain, cheap. You don't want to take it down bushel baskets, you could take it down in liquid form, make a whole lot more money out of it. But those were bygone days, unfortunately, but it put a lot of color in NASCAR. Now, you can read a lot about these bootleggers in my book, Bringing Up NASCAR, which you can get on Amazon.com. I think it's 15 or 20 bucks, but it's a great book. People have enjoyed it, and Bringing Up NASCAR by Humpy Wheeler himself, Amazon.com.